Easy guys, Dom here from Cringy Dad Gaming. So in this video we're taking a look at a game called Spark in the Dark. This is a hardcore dark fantasy dungeon crawler, and for those of you who are into the Soulsborne games, then this might scratch that itch. You can start off by playing with 4 classes within this demo, but there will be 5 classes in the final release. Release date is yet to be determined, but for those of you who want to try this game out, it is currently available on Steam as a demo, and I would highly recommend it. And I'm just going to kind of give you my thoughts really on why that is the case. So I'm playing as the blacksmith here, which is my preferred character out of testing all the characters. Now each character will come with their own specific set of abilities, strength qualities and combat skills, so it is really just a matter of finding one that works well for you, but you can kind of change up your weapons and armor as you're exploring these dungeons. Now there's no voice acting or anything in this particular game, but there is a lot of different books that you'll find that will tell you a little bit about the story and the lore within the game. Now if you like punishing Souls-like games, then this is the one for you. It's extremely difficult. It's one of those types of games really where you'll just make one simple mistake and it'll be the end of your run. There is no second life in this. There's no way of being able to go back to your body to be able to retrieve your equipment. Once you're dead, that's it, game over. You've got to start all over again. And it can get a little bit frustrating, but to be honest with you, that's the thing about these types of games that make it really challenging and also rewarding. Once you start figuring out the different enemy types, what their specific attacks are and the dangers involved with taking on these enemies, then you're going to start finding it a lot easier on each run. Also, you tend to find if you're going to get, say, surrounded by a number of different enemies, it's really quite a good idea to try and bait them into hitting each other, which you can do, and it really does help. I found that a good strategy when coming up against large groups of enemies, but don't be afraid to run away. It only takes one hit from an enemy sometimes to give you some form of debilitating injury that can really reduce your stats, and sometimes getting poisoned by, say, these spiders not only reduces your health over time with the poison, but can also sometimes restrict your movement, making you a lot slower, which would then increase the chances of you not being able to dodge or move out the way of enemy damage. But you've not just got the worry of damage from enemies in this game. There are traps hidden throughout the game which can sometimes be used to your advantage, that you can use against other enemies once you know where they are. But if you step on one that you've not seen, again, it can lead to a really bad outcome. There's also the darkness within the dungeons as well, and I really like the way this system worked. There are lights around the dungeons that sometimes are already switched on, sometimes you have to switch them on, and you use these to be able to heal yourself. Now you can find certain potions that will heal you, but starting out you're going to be using these lights a lot, and if you're not in an area where there's one of these lights, the darkness eventually will start consuming you and it starts degrading your health. So you can find these lanterns around the map, and these will actually allow you to remove the darkness debuff that you get with your health by just switching it on for a few seconds. It can also help with lighting up areas to be able to see things like holes in the ground that you might have missed, and you can fall down these holes, so not very good really to be walking into a room and then finding you're falling down a hole, because again it's game over. There's quite a spooky atmosphere with the top-down view, and I wasn't sure about it at first after obviously playing a lot of the Dark Souls games, Bloodborne, that sort of thing, but I kind of found that it really did work because you've got a restricted view of how much you can actually see around you. There is a certain amount of zoom you can use by using the scroll wheel on your mouse, but it didn't really make a massive amount of difference, to be honest with you. But the thing is, it adds a level of suspense because you don't actually know what's lurking around the corner or through a particular door. And as you progress through these levels and you're fighting these monsters, adventurers, eventually you will start getting tired, which could be based on how much weight you're carrying if you're deciding to rock the heavy armor and the heavier weapons, which is what I found was more beneficial to my playstyle. Once you get tired, it's going to start reducing your movement speed and your stamina, which means you have to find these little safe rooms where you can rest, and these are almost likened to the bonfires in Dark Souls, where you can rest up, restore your health. It will also heal any injuries that you've got that are obviously causing debuffs to your stats. But here you can also read the lore books that you find scattered throughout the dungeon. These will fill in the backstory for you. Now, the dungeons are procedurally generated to a certain extent, so every run that you do, things are going to be slightly different. The only thing that I found wasn't really that different was some of the locations of keys. So a little bit like, say, some of the Resident Evil games, in order for you to get through certain doors, you have to find certain keys, and these are hidden throughout the dungeon, and you've just pretty much got to explore every nook and cranny to be able to find these keys to be able to progress. Now, I have to admit, after playing this game for quite a few hours, I haven't yet even got to the end of the level because it is quite difficult. There was one artifact that I needed to get through to the next part of this level, and unfortunately I fell down a hole because the way it's placed, quite clever. And I had to take my heavy armor off, so I was able to roll across this small gap, and even though I managed to get across there and pick up the artifact, I then had this spider somehow managed to get across the hole. Well, I guess it's a spider, I guess it's better at climbing than me. I thought I was in the right position to be able to roll back, and unfortunately I wasn't, and I fell down. That's the furthest point I've managed to get in this dungeon crawler at this point. The game itself looks really nice in terms of its graphics, the sound design and music is very good, adds to the tension and the atmosphere of the game, and it is quite dark, so the style of it is quite cool, and I do like the design of the game. So as I mentioned earlier, you can find various different types of weapons and armor which all have different stats, and you know, it is really about choosing which weapon you want to use. Some are better at doing more damage to different enemy types, and there are various different enemy types. Some of them seem relatively harmless until they actually hit you with a swing of their weapon, and you see they do quite a bit of damage. Some of the enemies are more armored than others, making them more difficult. Some enemies will poison you, especially the spiders, which again can really cause you issues. But you know, different characters have different stats to be able to combat against some of these attacks, and different armor types will also protect you from certain things. Now, you can find things like different rings that will give you buffs as well, that are hidden throughout the map, and there's also all these little secret passageways that lead you through to different areas where sometimes you can find some really useful stuff. Some of these potions that you find are not only going to help you with things like health and your stamina and also how much damage you do for a short period of time, but some of them can be used to poison weapons as well, which I thought was quite cool. So, you know, it is really worth exploring deep into the dark crevices of the dungeon that you're actually playing on this first level. But I have to say, it's one of those very addictive games, regardless of, you know, the kind of level being pretty much the same in its design with what you've got available to you in the demo. It's still good fun to jump back in and try another run to try and see if you can get further. And it is one of those games where, you know, the more you die, the more you learn, the further you get, and it is very addicting. And I have to say that I'm quite excited for the final release of this game, although as I've mentioned there's no actual release date as yet. But I would recommend putting this on your wish list on Steam and trying out the demo at least, because for those of you, like I said, that like these really hardcore games that are quite punishing, I think you'll get a lot out of it. If you'd like to see more of this particular game on the channel, and maybe I can come up with a few guides once I've got further into the game, then don't forget to like, comment and subscribe. Watch this space for more Spark in the Dark, and I'll catch you guys on another video. Thanks for watching.